you've ever started a story strong and then had no idea where to take it, this lesson is for you. Welcome to Writing Picture Books class, a playlist right here on YouTube on the Picture Book Creators channel, where I lead you step by step through writing picture books for children. Here in lesson 2, we're going to cover the really important fundamentals of plot and structure, which could not only save your story, it could help save your sanity by making your writing process so much easier. I want to encourage you to start at the beginning of this playlist and go in order step by step, learning each lesson and beginning to apply it to your work. I really believe in doing, not just listening or watching. So that's why I've designed an extra resource, a downloadable, printable workbook called Picture Book Writing Exercises. This workbook is an affordable printable download that you can find at the links below. You can print it out and have it ready for the class. Every single exercise in the book corresponds to the free video here that you'll find on YouTube. So if you want to get the most transformation out of this class, I highly encourage you to find this downloadable resource that goes hand in hand with every single lesson, including exercises on target age and word count, on developing strong plots and story structure, creating memorable characters, writing vivid settings, drafting your first story, and learning how to revise and edit your work. You can find those links below. Let's get on with the lesson. Welcome to the lesson on storytelling, plot, and structure, which is going to give us the essential building blocks for storytelling. In this lesson, I'm going to show you the difference between overt and covert moral lessons. We're going to examine the basic story structures and explore creative storytelling techniques that will bring dynamics to your writing. First, let's look at messages and meanings in storytelling. Let's start by thinking about the meanings in a story. You might ask yourself, does every story have to have a meaning? Is there always a lesson? If you think about it, every story has a problem. A problem has an outcome, and outcomes always have something to learn from. So no matter how you break it down, there's always some kind of lesson or moral in a good story. I like to encourage picture book writers, all writers for that matter, to be very intentional about knowing your lesson or moral. And what I mean by that is stopping to ask yourself, what do I want my readers to learn? What do I want to impart to my audience? And when you know this, it helps you to craft a really powerful legacy-leaving outcome. So what do I mean by overt or covert lessons? In storytelling, there's two basic forms of messages: overt and covert. Let's take a look. A covert moral lesson is a hidden message in a story requiring readers to interpret its meaning. It's not explicitly stated by the characters or the narrator, but the writer prompts the readers to reflect on the story's implications. For example, in my publication, Wait, Darling, Wait, the animals learn patience and positivity, but I never once use the word patience or positivity in the whole book. It's a covert, very hidden little gem of a lesson. Now let's look at what an overt moral lesson is. An overt moral lesson is a clear message directly stated in the story, easily understood by readers without much interpretation. So for example, if I had written my book, Wait, Darling, Wait, to explicitly say the animals learned patience, or if the chicken said, be positive, stay positive, that would have been an overt message. In summary, a covert lesson requires interpretation, while an overt lesson is explicit and easily understood. It's up to you as the picture book creator which kind of lesson you impart to your readers, but I do want to encourage you to be mindful of your message, because this is going to help you craft and impact the most intentional, thoughtful story. So let's take a look at the basic story structure. All storytelling has a very basic structure, whether it's for children or for older readers. There's a very basic structure that is triadic. It's simple. It's the beginning, middle, and end. The beginning is our introduction. I call this world building. We introduce the main characters and settings. Then we have the middle, which is the conflict and climax. This is where we present a problem or challenge that the characters must face, leading to the point of maximum tension, where the conflict reaches its peak. Then we have the end, the resolution, where the conflict is resolved and the story concludes, often with a happy ending. We hope it's a happy ending, or at least the world comes back to a place where the reader is satisfied and feels good. And so to truly understand and master the art of storytelling, we are always pushing ourselves to understand more about each of these components of the basic story structure: the beginning, middle, and end. The world building, which is learning to develop our characters and settings, which I'm going to share with you more in future lessons. And then that conflict and climax, which we're going to talk more about conflict right here in this lesson. And the end and resolution and how to satisfy our readers. I will stop myself at any given point of my process, whether it's in first draft or when I'm revising, and ask myself these critical plot questions. And it's this simple. I'll say, Mary Janelle, what's the problem here? Have you made a good problem? Is the problem the biggest, worst problem that should be in this story? And what's the resolution? Have you satisfied the readers through this resolution? Or is there another angle to take that I need to work in here to this story? And this is like keeping the story putty in your hands, like clay in the potter's hands, where you can just work it, and be open-minded. So ask yourself, I challenge you, at any given time of the writing process, what's the problem? What's the resolution? And you go through the beginning, middle, and end, and really hold yourself to growing as a writer in this way, in plot and structure. Hey there, just a quick intermission from today's lesson. Are you loving the lesson so far? If so, give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget that I have an extra companion to this class called Picture Book Writing Exercises. Every activity inside of this affordable, downloadable printable corresponds to a lesson here on this playlist to get you from just watching to doing. This is how we're going to really transform our skills together. So find that link below. Let's get on with the lesson. Now, you might say, Mary Janelle, this is wonderful information, but some of my favorite books don't seem to follow a typical plot structure. You might think of the book The Giving Tree. Does it really have a problem and resolve? It's a feel-good story, not a plot and structure. If you really look closely, you'll discover it absolutely has a plot and structure. The problem resolves around the boy's growing needs and desires and the tree's willingness to give everything to fulfill those needs. The resolution comes as the tree finds contentment in being a place for the boy to rest, showing a different and more subtle kind of resolution. You might think about the book Love You Forever. That's a feel-good story. Is there really a problem and resolve? Absolutely. The story deals with the passage of time and the changing roles between parent and child, with the resolve being the continuation of love across the generations. Now, even though some of these classics and bestsellers seem to deviate from the typical story structure, when you look close enough, you will see that those fundamental elements are indeed at play. I want to encourage you to grab all your favorite children's literature and read it again and study the plot and structure and understand how that story has a beginning, middle, and end. Ask yourself what intrigues you about the conflict and what satisfies you about the resolve. And through studying this, you will become a better, more natural writer because it will begin to flow out of you as you craft your own stories. So let's take a closer look at conflict. What is conflict in storytelling? Conflict in storytelling refers to the challenge or problem that the main character faces. It's the obstacle that stands in the way of what the character wants or needs. And generally in storytelling, the conflict can come in 3 different forms. Number 1 is the internal conflict, a struggle within the character, such as fear, self-doubt, or a difficult decision. And then the conflict might come in the form of an external conflict. A challenge posed by an outside force, such as another character, for example, a bully or a baddie. A situation the bully or baddie creates, or an external challenging circumstance, such as moving to a new school or a natural event like being scared of a storm. And then there might be interpersonal conflict, which is when there's a conflict between characters, such as a disagreement or a competition. In order to be a good picture book writer, it's imperative that you create relatable conflict. Now, what do I mean by relatable conflict? Now, first off, I need to remind you that we have to have age appropriateness. So it's really important as writers for children to make our conflicts appropriate for the age that we're targeting. So I want to encourage you to know your audience. Consider the age group that you're writing it for. Make it age appropriate. Make sure that you look at those age groups and understand what that age group is typically going through in terms of conflict. Focus on emotions. Tap into the emotions of children. Emotions such as fear, jealousy, excitement, or love. Emotional conflict is really powerful because it directly relates and connects to the reader's feelings. And then create a clear resolution, a resolution that is just as relatable as the conflict. Now, relatable doesn't necessarily equal realistic. This could be outlandish, fantastical, if that's a word. I might have just made that up. Fantastical. And it could just be so imaginative. You don't need to be realistic to be relatable. What you want to do is connect. So what's the best way that you can develop the skills to relate to your audience no matter what the age? I like to say it's by growing ourselves personally, that in our personal life, we would learn to recognize our own conflicts and resolution and to grow as a person through what we're experiencing. So I like to say to writers, embrace your own conflict. Create your own solutions, because by doing this in your personal life, it's going to naturally overflow into your writing life. The book Wait, Darling, Wait, which seems to be a very simple parable about animals on a farm learning patience and positivity, was in actual fact birthed out of me embracing my own conflict. I was in a season of time in my life where our family was looking to sell our family hobby farm, and it didn't seem to be selling, and I was very impatient to move on with the next chapter in life. And I was watering the flowers on my porch one day, and this idea kind of came out of heaven, and I saw the story of the chicken sitting on her nest saying, "Wait, darling, wait." And it all just kind of came to me. And of course, I did take it through the entire writing process that I teach here in this class. But the story itself was germinated and birthed out of me embracing my inner conflict and learning the solution. And for me personally, the solution was trusting God's plan and trusting God's timing. Now, that isn't explicitly said in the book, but it is woven through the fibers of intention as I wrote and published that story. The heart of the story is there as the animals discover patience and positivity, and the chicken repeatedly says, "Wait, darling, wait." To summarize this lesson, we need to always come back to the basics of the structure that every good story has a beginning, middle, and end. It's that simple. There's an intro of world building, a problem, a conflict, and a resolve, a solution. When we're always learning to craft the best beginning, middle, and end that we possibly can, we become not just good writers, but excellent writers, ones who create engaging narratives with lasting impact. Thank you so much for learning with me today here in Writing Picture Books. If you enjoyed this lesson, please give it the thumbs up here on YouTube, share it with a friend, spread the word that there is this kind of educational material for those who dream of writing picture books. Find the links below for the printable companion, the exercises that get you doing, not just watching and listening, but doing is where the real transformation happens. And I can't wait for you to join with me in these exercises and really begin to practice your picture book writing skills. If you're looking for encouragement, accountability, or a space to just grow your skills as a picture book creator, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell here on the Picture Book Creators channel, because every week I create a video to help support your journey. And YouTube has a feature called Community that I'll be using to inspire you. Make sure to check out all my other helpful videos and do the lessons on this playlist in sequential order so that you can get the most out of them. Until next time, picture book creators, happy writing.